Sure. My name originates from, ancient Hebrew, and it means faithful spiritual friend. So it's biblical, and it's Ruth's friend. And the H is meant to be there intentionally to give honor to that true root. But it's actually silent. So it's NoHemí.
NoHemí.
Uh-huh. And then my last name is Estrella, which means star.
Oh, beautiful.
And those are my real names. And people ask me that all the time, and I think it's funny in this day and age that we have to ask people that, but that is my real name. Yeah. And my mom dropped the H from my name. Well, my mom didn't name me, actually. Somebody in the hospital did. And so that's why the H wasn't included, but the proper spelling of my name needs to have an H in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very beautiful. Spiritual friend star.
Yes.
I like that.
Thank you.
So where do you find yourself in your journeys right now?
That is a loaded question.
I know. I love them.
Bravo. So to pick up where Samuel and I left off, I recently had a near-death experience, which was on Valentine's Day of last year. And that date is actually meaningful because it was a love quest. It was love that pulled me into that space, and it was also love that shielded me from leaving my body permanently, which I'm sure you guys can relate to. So it's been a love journey, but it's a love journey unlike what we're accustomed to in society and in this world. It's a love journey that has been more of a all-encompassing, including the darkness, including the agony and the pain and the misery. That's all including the hate, including the animosities. So there has been no part of my existence on this planet that has not been shed on with light. And although at times it seems like, whoa, I just had a really cool experience. Something just shifted here. It was really neat. It was visual. So it was I'm sure it's you guys making yourselves known in my space. But thank you. I acknowledge you here.
Thank you. Gratitude.
And so it was, wow, thank you. I'm so overwhelmed right now. It's beautiful. Thank you, Samuel. So it has been a space of all awareness. And my desire is to be a beacon in a dark space of others that are also suffering through similar. I know that I don't hold the monopoly for what I've been through. I know that there are others who have suffered more devastating situations than I have ever. But I know that I can relate to them on a deep, profound level of connectivity as far as knowing the pain involved. And I think that pain is universal in the sense that we all feel it, and we all feel that it is uniquely ours, and sometimes we tend to feel that nobody else will understand. And I'm speaking objectively here. I'm not speaking of us. I feel that, especially the three of us with what just happened, absolutely do understand, absolutely do have a more universal perspective on this. And that's my desire. So I want to be of service in anything that I can do and in any way that I can be.
I think that's very beautiful. My perception of pain, I share with you, it's vital for us to be able to experience it and to feel safe and guided when we're expressing it, when we're feeling it, when we're faced with it.
There's something that all three of us have in common, and I just want to point it out, and then we can continue the conversation. If you understand that you guys got experience here in this lifetime in the astral realms, it happened out of your childhood. You were not seen, you weren't understood. In many cases, we were abused at whatever level we were abused at. And the pain was so intense that we actually left our body and stay in our bodies very often. So we've not really been here at one level. And now that we've decided to really actually be in our bodies, it feels very different. And our knowing and our connections to all that we are is so different. And it's a perspective that people are looking for. They don't understand what that means. They don't know what it looks like. So your life is the example of how you can connect to Source and know with absolute certainty that you are the reflection of the One.
Yes, that's right. Very beautiful.
One of my first near-death experience that I was able to have a memory of an elephant. And the first one that I was able to experience after my meningitis without going under hypnosis. So it was absolutely through personal hypnosis. So I was actually leading it. I was actually guiding it. I was aware, and I can astral project while I'm still observing my body. I was able to go to my infancy abuse, and I was back into my infant body, and I heard the chickens outside. I smelled the house, the dirt, the wet, damp earth. I smelled the lack of personal hygiene of those that lived in this environment. But it wasn't necessarily unpleasant. It was just something, experiencing something for the first time. So, for example, I'm just going to use like certain foods from different cultures, like fish sauce can be very unpleasant when we're not used to that. But when we become accustomed to it, it actually isn't as bad as it is when we're not accustomed to it. So you kind of go, oh, that's the fish sauce, as opposed to like, man, this house stinks. I don't know if you guys have ever smelled fish sauce, but it's quite the smell. and so it was an experiencing of everything as new. So in that infant state, it wasn't sexual at all. There was no sex involved. It was my heart feeling like it was going to burst. It was my body responding to some unknown factor, and my heart literally racing so quickly that it felt like it was going to burst. And I had blocked that from my memory. What happened was, through a careful, guided, and I believe I was being guided by my angel to be able to feel this, have the strength to be able to experience it without fear at this time, was that I had stopped existing in the spirit. My body and my soul separated, and I scared my biological father. And there was fear because he had disconnected me. So because of his abuse, there was a disconnect. It wasn't penis penetration, obviously, because I was only a few months old. I can't tell you exactly how old I was, but I know that I wasn't capable of controlling my body. My limbs were small, and I was just observing. I wasn't really an active participant. I was just there as a being coming into itself. And so, but I scared him, and that fear, I had never understood why he was always so afraid of me. He's still afraid of me. I haven't seen him in 20 years probably, but even the last time I saw him, he tried to run me over with a car. And I stood there with my arms out like saying, come get me. I've never been afraid of him. And so with that recent experience that I had, I realized that he knew that he had pushed me to my existing limit by gratifying whatever sense of power that he was seeking, because we know that that kind of abuse isn't about sexual gratification. It's an illness of a lack of power, a lack of self, and narcissism to a perverted degree. With that experience, my soulmate that I live with happened to, in the midst of it, he was actually what snapped me out of it. I heard his heavy footsteps walking towards me, but I was still in that other dimension. As he was walking towards me, I snapped through and like literally went from, being almost unconscious to sitting up and accusing him of wanting to kill me. It was just like an immediate, like from one breath to the other, I was ready in a fighting stance. And I was like, and I said, "Were you trying to kill me?" And he was like, his shock was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. That wasn't for you. That's where I was, and I tried to soothe the situation as much as I could. With him, the realization for me was enormous. I was so grateful for that understanding and for that awareness of the infant abuse that doesn't get acknowledged. Does this make sense?
Yes, very much.
And I felt like I'm that voice.
In my opinion, the subject about male dominance on this particular planet is a very old story. And so it's an old story that was really probably created at the time of creation, because our creator gods were creating out of alignment with Source, enamored with their own creations. And therefore, those kind of distortions were built into the creation model, and it's taken all this time to manifest in this time. Here we are, though, at culmination, and then we have to reset somehow. In this culture, I, as a white male, tall white male, I have privilege that many people don't have just because of what body I occupy. And yet there's no reason why a sentient being as myself would ever consider it as an appropriate thing to exercise power over another sentient being. It doesn't work that way. That's not the way this whole universe works. So the universe that you and I know in this physical realm is full of distortions that has manifested over many, 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 many thousands of years, and lots of trial and error of having Source experience what that feels like. The creator gods decided to incarnate into their own creation, and here we are.
Beautiful. I would like to add to that, because I do see, I do agree with you that it has been a male energy dominated creation. But here's my perspective. I believe that the female energy has not been far removed from the male energy that has dominated. The male energy has dominated out of love for the female energy. What I believe has happened is that the female energy split into two separate realms, one of mothering and compassion and love and everything that is Gaia, everything that is evolutionary and just never-ending progress, and always looking for survival, always looking for improvement of the species, of all species. As females, human species, we have this duality in us. Also, I believe that when a female energy taps into the darkness, because we are the creators of life, that darkness is overpowering to the male energy. We can take all of the male energy, all the dominance of the male energy, and absolutely twist it and use it to hurt the other counterpart of the female energy. And I've done a lot of meditation as far as slavery and injustices, and a lot of it I've been able to take back to that envy, the jealousy, that self-entitlement of the female energy's duality. Now, I'm not saying that this is strictly for the female species. I'm saying the female energy. I believe that we all encompass the male and the female energy within ourselves. So it's that female energy that can be manipulated. And I've always been told that I'm more of a guy than a girl, because I don't have a problem getting rough and tumble with guys. And I love that men in general tend to just call it like it is without trying to rose-color things. Whereas in females, if that female energy is divided within them, I can say the exact same thing and I get, bombarded by animosity. And I'm just like, whoa, you got a problem. You know what I mean? Because that's not what I meant. That's not what I said. That's not how it is. But and this is just recently also, I realized that it was coming from envy. This particular female that has kind of culminated that in my life recently is disconnected from her mothering energy. And she has children. And she's angry at me. And her anger is underlying her friendship with me. So she wants to be friends, but it's not authentic. And so when I say things like, I'm being bombarded by, all of this affection and love, and I'm not exactly sure how to deal with it, it's like, well, I wasn't referring to contention. Whoa, neither was I. Do you know what I mean? It was just so obvious that I was like, I don't have any contention. I don't have any contention with you. And then it was kind of tried to swept under the rug as far as, it didn't even get acknowledged that conversation had been there. And I realized that this person is not of authentic intent with me. It has to do still with the envy and the animosity. And it also has been very alive and well in my family, with my mother in particular.